The complexities of PTSD, hypervigilance, self-doubt, and distrust. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental health condition that arises after an individual experiences or witnesses a traumatic event. The symptoms of PTSD can be both overwhelming and isolating, affecting various aspects of an individual's life. One of the most defining features of PTSD is the state of constant survival mode, where the mind and body are perpetually in a heightened state of alertness, ready to respond to perceived threats. This hypervigilance is often coupled with deep self-doubt and the tendency to question everyone and everything around them. These symptoms create a complex emotional landscape where trauma survivors struggle with both internal and external realities. The combination of these symptoms can make it difficult to trust oneself, others, or the world around them, creating an ongoing cycle of fear, uncertainty, and emotional exhaustion. Survival mode and hypervigilance. At the core of PTSD is the persistent sense of being in survival mode. This state occurs when the body's fight or flight response is constantly triggered, often without any immediate danger. It's the mind's way of remaining alert to potential threats, a survival instinct that becomes maladaptive when the perceived threats no longer exist in the present. Individuals in this state may feel overwhelmed by an incessant need to stay on guard. Hypervigilance is a manifestation of this constant survival mode. It is characterized by an individual being on high alert to their environment, always scanning for danger, even in situations where there is no immediate threat. This hyper-awareness leads to an exaggerated startle response, difficulty concentrating, irritability, and poor sleep. The body and mind remain in a continuous state of readiness, draining significant emotional and physical energy. Over time, this can lead to burnout, anxiety, and a deep sense of exhaustion, as the body never has a chance to fully relax or recuperate. Self-doubt. The internal struggle. In addition to hypervigilance, PTSD often comes with intense self-doubt. This symptom arises when an individual internalizes their trauma, questioning their worth, judgment, and ability to trust themselves. Self-doubt may manifest as a sense of guilt or shame, where the individual feels responsible for the trauma they endured or believes that they somehow failed to prevent it. These feelings can lead to constant second-guessing, where even everyday decisions are met with overwhelming uncertainty. For some individuals, this self-doubt can evolve into imposter syndrome, the belief that they do not deserve success or happiness, or that they are faking their way through life. This can be especially true if they have been told that their experiences or emotions are invalid or exaggerated. Consequently, survivors may feel disconnected from their accomplishments, unable to acknowledge their worth or value. Moreover, this internal dialogue often undermines confidence in decision-making, as the fear of making the wrong choice leads to paralysis and avoidance. Questioning everyone and everything. Another hallmark of PTSD is the tendency to question everyone and everything. This symptom stems from the trauma survivor's altered perception of the world. In many cases, the trauma was caused by another person, whether through abuse, betrayal, or violence. As a result, the individual may become deeply suspicious of others' intentions, struggling to trust even the people who care for them. They may second-guess the sincerity of others' words, actions, or motives, believing that people are deceiving or manipulating them. This lack of trust extends to the environment as well. Hypervigilance often involves an acute awareness of one's surroundings, and survivors may read into benign interactions, looking for signs of potential danger. For example, the way someone speaks, a gesture they make, or even the tone of their voice can be interpreted as a threat. This constant scanning for threats not only contributes to heightened anxiety but also alienates the individual from their loved ones, as their suspicions and doubts can cause rifts in relationships. Furthermore, PTSD can lead survivors to question their own perceptions of reality. The distortion of their past experiences, whether due to gaslighting, manipulation, or their own mind's attempt to make sense of the trauma, can make it difficult to differentiate between what is real and what is feared. This cognitive dissonance often results in a confusing internal narrative, where the individual struggles to make sense of their trauma, the people around them, and even their own feelings. The emotional and cognitive impact. The combination of hypervigilance, self-doubt, and distrust creates a web of emotional and cognitive challenges. The emotional exhaustion that results from constantly being on guard, is compounded by a pervasive sense of insecurity, both internally and externally. The individual may feel trapped in a cycle of fear and confusion, unable to trust their own judgment or the motives of those around them. This not only impacts their daily functioning but also their ability to maintain meaningful relationships and move forward in life. The impact on relationships can be profound. The inability to trust others can lead to feelings of isolation, as the survivor distances themselves from friends, family, or romantic partners. In some cases, loved ones may feel rejected or misunderstood, further exacerbating the survivor's feelings of loneliness. Moreover, the lack of trust in oneself can prevent individuals from seeking help or support, as they may fear that others won't understand or will not offer genuine assistance. Coping and healing. Despite the overwhelming nature of these symptoms, healing from PTSD is possible with the right support and coping strategies. Therapy is a cornerstone of treatment for PTSD, with EMDR, DBT, IFS, parts work, and narrative approach offering effective tools for challenging negative thought patterns and rebuilding trust in oneself. These therapies can help individuals process their trauma and identify distorted beliefs, replacing them with more balanced and realistic perspectives. Additionally, self-compassion practices can help counteract the negative self-talk associated with lingering self-doubt. By recognizing that their doubts and fears are a natural response to trauma, individuals can begin to extend kindness and understanding to themselves. Learning about trauma, the effects of trauma, and the process of healing from trauma can lead to a greater understanding and more self-compassion. When we explore this topic on our own via videos, books, and podcasts, it's typically called self-help. When a therapist explains it to us, it's usually called psychoeducation. Finally, support systems, whether through therapy, support groups, or trusted friends and family, can provide much-needed reassurance and validation. Rebuilding trust in others and in the world around them takes time, but with gradual, positive interactions, individuals can begin to heal and regain a sense of safety. In conclusion, PTSD is a deeply complex condition that can cause individuals to feel trapped in a never-ending cycle of hypervigilance, self-doubt, and distrust. The experience of being in constant survival mode, questioning one's own judgment, and suspecting others' motives creates an emotional and cognitive landscape that is both overwhelming and isolating. However, with appropriate treatment, mindfulness, and support, healing is possible. By addressing the trauma at the core of these symptoms and working to rebuild trust in oneself and others, individuals with PTSD can regain control over their lives and begin to move forward in a healthier, more balanced way.